ENOCH. Enosh was asked who his father was, and he named Seth. The questioners, the people of his time, continued, "Who was the father of Seth?" Enosh. Adam. And who was the father of Adam? He had neither father nor mother. God formed him from the dust of the earth. But man has not the appearance of dust. After death, man returns to dust, as God said. How was the woman created? Male and female he created them. But how? God took water and earth and molded them together in the form of man. But how? Pursued the questioners. Enosh then took 6 clods of earth, mixed them, and molded them, and formed an image of dust and clay. But, the people said, this image does not walk, nor does it possess any breath of life. He then demonstrated how God breathed the breath of life into the nostrils of Adam. But when he began to blow his breath into the image he had formed, Satan entered it, and the figure walked. And the people who were asking these questions went after it, saying, "What is the difference between bowing down to this image and paying homage to a man?" The generation of Enosh were thus the first idol worshippers, and the punishment for their folly was not long delayed. God caused the sea to transgress its bounds, and a portion of the earth was flooded. This was the time also when the mountains became rocks, and the dead bodies of men began to decay. And still another consequence of idolatry was that the continents of the following generations were no longer in the likeness of the image of God, as the continents of Adam, Seth, and Enosh had been. They resembled centaurs and apes, so that the demons lost their fear of men. But there were still more serious consequences from the idolatry introduced in the time of Enosh. When God drove Adam forth from paradise, the Shekinah remained behind, enthroned above a cherub under the tree of life. The angels descended from heaven and came together in hosts to receive their instructions, and Adam and his descendants sat by the gate to bask in the splendor of the Shekinah, 65,000 times more radiant than the splendor of the sun. This brightness of the Shekinah makes all upon whom it falls exempt from disease, and neither insects nor demons can come near them to do them harm. That lasted until the time of Enosh, when men began to gather gold, silver, gems, and pearls from all parts of the earth, and make idols of them 1,000 parasangs high. What was worse, by means of magic arts taught to them by the angels, Uzzah and Azazel, they set themselves as masters over the heavenly spheres, and forced the sun, moon, and stars to be subservient to themselves instead of the Lord. This prompted the angels to ask God, "What is man that you are mindful of him? Why did you abandon the highest of the heavens and set your glory and your exalted throne in Arabat, and descend to men, pay worship to idols, putting you upon a level with them?" The Shekinah was then induced to leave the earth and ascend to heaven, amid the blare and flourish of the trumpets of the myriads of angel hosts. The fall of the angels. The depravity of mankind, which began to show itself in the time of Enosh, had increased monstrously by the time of his grandson, Jared, by reason of the fallen angels. When the angels saw the beautiful, attractive daughters of men, they lusted after them and spoke, "We will choose wives for ourselves only from among the daughters of men, and have children with them." Their chief, Shemazai, said, "I fear you will put this plan of yours into execution, and I alone will have to suffer the consequences of a great sin." Then they answered him and said, "We will all swear an oath, and we will bind ourselves, separately and together, not to abandon the plan, but to carry it through to the end." 200 angels then descended to the summit of Mount Hermon, which owns its name to this very occurrence, because they bound themselves there to fulfill their purpose, on the penalty of anathema. Under the leadership of 20 captains, they defiled themselves with the daughters of men, to whom they taught charms, conjuring formulas, how to cut roots, and the uses of plants. The issue from these mixed marriages was a race of giants, 3,000 ells tall, who consumed the possessions of men. When these goods had vanished, and they could obtain nothing more from men, the giants turned against men themselves and devoured many. The remnant of men began to trespass against the birds, beasts, reptiles, and fishes, eating their flesh and drinking their blood. The earth complained about the impious evildoers, but the fallen angels continued to corrupt mankind. Azazel taught men how to make slaughtering knives, arms, shields, and coats of mail. He showed them metals and how to work them, and bracelets and all sorts of trinkets, the use of rouge for the eyes, and how to beautify the eyelids, how to ornament themselves with the rarest and most precious jewels, and all sorts of paints. The chief of the fallen angels, Shemhazai, instructed them in exorcisms and how to cut roots. Armoros taught them how to raise spells. Barakel, divination from the stars. Kakabel, astrology. Ezekiel, augury from the clouds. Erikael, the signs of the earth. Samsuit, the signs of the sun. And Siriel, the signs of the moon. While all these abominations defiled the earth, the pious Enoch lived in a secret place. None among men knew his abode, or what had become of him, for he was sojourning with the angel watchers and holy ones. Once he heard the call addressed to him, "Enoch, you scribe of justice, go to the angels of the heavens, who have left the high heavens, the eternal place of holiness, who have defiled themselves with women, doing as men do, taking wives to themselves and casting themselves into the arms of destruction on earth. Go and proclaim to them that they shall neither find peace nor pardon, for every time they take joy in their offspring, they shall see the violent death of their sons, and sigh over the ruin of their children. They will pray and supplicate evermore, but never shall they attain to mercy or peace." So Enoch went to Azazel and the other fallen angels to announce this doom uttered against them. They all were filled with fear. Trembling seized upon them, and they implored Enoch to set up a petition for them and read it to the Lord of heaven. For they could not speak with God as before, nor even raise their eyes heavenward, for shame on account of their sins. Enoch granted their request, and in a vision he was given the answer which he was to carry back to the angels. It appeared to Enoch that he was carried up to heaven upon clouds, and was set down before the throne of God. God spoke, "Go and say to the angels of heaven who have sent you to intercede for them, truly it is you who ought to plead on behalf of men, not men on behalf of you. Why did you forsake the high, holy, and eternal heavens, to pollute yourselves with the daughters of men, taking wives to yourselves, doing like the races of the earth, and begetting giant sons? Giants begotten by flesh and spirits will be called evil spirits on earth, and on earth will be their dwelling place. Evil spirits proceed from their bodies because they are created from above, and from the holy angels is their beginning and primal origin. They will be evil spirits on earth, and evil spirits they will be named. The spirits of heaven have their dwelling in heaven, but the spirits of the earth, which were born upon the earth, have their dwelling on earth. The spirits of the giants will devour, oppress, destroy, attack, do battle, and cause destruction on the earth. They will take no kind of food, nor will they thirst. They will be invisible, and these spirits will rise up against the children of men, and against women, because they proceeded from them. Since the days of murder and destruction and the death of the giants, when the spirits went forth from the soul of their flesh, in order to destroy without incurring judgment, thus will they destroy until the day when the great destruction of the great world will be consummated. And now, as to the watchers who have sent you to intercede for them, say to them, "You have been in heaven, and though the hidden things had not been yet revealed to you, you knew worthless mysteries, and in the hardness of your hearts you have recounted these to the women. and through these mysteries women and men work much evil on earth. Say to them, therefore, you have no peace. Enoch, ruler and teacher. After Enoch had lived a long time secluded from men, he once heard the voice of an angel calling to him, Enoch, Enoch, make yourself ready and leave your house, the secret place you have kept yourself hidden, and assume dominion over men. Teach them the ways in which they shall walk, and the deeds which they shall do, in order that they may walk in the ways of God. Enoch then left his retreat and went to the haunts of men. He gathered them about him and instructed them in the conduct pleasing to God. He sent messengers all over to announce, you who desire to know the ways of God and righteous conduct, come to Enoch. Then a vast concourse of people thronged about him to hear the wisdom he would teach and learn from his mouth what is good and right. Even kings and princes, no less than 130 in number, assembled about him and submitted themselves to his dominion, to be taught and guided by him, as he taught and guided all the others. Peace thus reigned over the whole world all the 243 years during which the influence of Enoch prevailed. At the expiration of this period, the year in which Adam died and was buried with great honors by Seth, Enosh, Enoch, and Methuselah, Enoch resolved to retire again from discourse with men and devote himself wholly to the service of God. But he withdrew gradually. First he would spend 3 days in prayer and praise of God, and on the 4th day he would return to his disciples and grant them instruction. Many years passed. Then he appeared to them but once a week, later once a month, and finally once a year. The kings, princes, and all others who were desirous of seeing Enoch and hearing his words did not venture to come close to him during the times of his retirement. Such awful majesty sat upon his countenance that they feared for their very life if they but looked at him. They therefore resolved that all men should take their request to Enoch on the day he showed himself to them. The impression made by the teachings of Enoch was powerful. Those who heard prostrated themselves before him and cried, long live the king! Long live the king! On a certain day, while Enoch was giving audience to his followers, an angel appeared and told him that God had resolved to install him as king over the angels in heaven, as until then he had reigned over men. Enoch then called together all the people of the earth and addressed them thus, I have been summoned to ascend into heaven. I know not on what day I shall go. Therefore, I will teach you wisdom and righteousness before I go there. Enoch spent a few more days among men, establishing law and order for their regulation. Then those gathered near him saw a gigantic steed descend from the skies, and they told Enoch of it, who said, the steed is for me, for the time has come when I leave you, never to be seen again. So it was. The steed approached Enoch, and he mounted upon its back, all the time instructing the people, exhorting them, enjoining them to serve God and walk in his ways. 800,000 people followed a day's journey after him, but on the 2nd day Enoch urged his retinue to turn back. Go home, lest death overtake you if you follow me farther. Most of them heeded his words and went back, but a number remained with him for 6 days, though he admonished them daily to return and not bring death down upon themselves. On the 6th day of the journey he said to those still with him, Go home, for tomorrow I shall ascend to heaven, and whoever is then near me will die. Nevertheless, some of his companions remained, saying, Where you go, we go. By the living God, death alone shall part us. On the 7th day Enoch was carried into the heavens on a fiery chariot, drawn by fiery chargers. The day after, the kings who had turned back in good time sent messengers to inquire as to the fate of the men who had refused to separate themselves from Enoch, for they had noted the number of them. They found snow and great hailstones on the spot where Enoch had risen. And when they searched underneath, they discovered the bodies of all who had remained behind with him, He alone was not among them. He was on high in heaven. The Ascension of Enoch. This was not the first time Enoch had been in heaven. Once before, while he sojourned among men, he had been permitted to see all there is on earth and in the heavens. One time when he was sleeping, a great grief came upon his heart, and he wept in his dream, not knowing what the grief meant, nor what would happen to him. Then appeared two men, very tall. Their faces shone like the sun, their eyes were like burning lamps. Fire came forth from their lips, their wings brighter than gold, and their hands whiter than snow. They stood at the head of Enoch's bed and called him by his name. He awoke and was terrified. The men said to him, "Be of good cheer, Enoch. Be not afraid. The everlasting God has sent us to you, and lo, today you shall ascend with us into heaven. Tell your sons and your servants not to seek you until the Lord brings you back to them." Enoch did as he was told, and after he had spoken to his sons and instructed them not to turn aside from God, these two men summoned him and took him on their wings, and placed him on the clouds, which moved higher and higher, till they set him down in the first heaven. Here the men showed him the 200 angels who rule over the stars, and he also saw the treasuries of snow and ice, of clouds and dew. From there they took him to the second heaven, where he saw the fallen angels imprisoned, they who obeyed not the commandments of God, and took counsel of their own. The fallen angels said to Enoch, "O man of God, pray for us to the Lord." And he answered, "Who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows where I go, or what awaits me?" Then they took him to the third heaven, where they showed him paradise, with all the trees of beautiful colors, and the fruits ripe and luscious, and all kinds of food which they produced, springing up with delightful fragrance. In the midst of paradise he saw the tree of life, the place where God rests when he comes to paradise. This tree cannot be described for its excellence and sweet fragrance. It is beautiful, more than any created thing. On all its sides is like gold and crimson in appearance, transparent as fire, and it covers everything. From its root go forth 4 streams, which pour out honey, milk, oil, and wine, and they go down to the paradise of Eden. From there they go along the earth. He also saw the 300 angels who keep the garden, and with never-ceasing voices singing, they serve the Lord every day. The angels leading Enoch explained to him that this place is prepared for the righteous, while the terrible place, prepared for the sinners, is in the northern regions of the third heaven. There he saw all sorts of tortures and impenetrable gloom. There is no light, but a gloomy fire is always burning, and that place has fire on all sides, and on all sides cold and ice. Thus it burns and freezes. And the angels, terrible and without pity, carry savage weapons, and their torture is unmerciful. The angels then took him to the fourth heaven, and showed him all the comings and goings, all the rays of the sun and the moon. He saw 15 myriads of angels go out with the sun and attend him during the day, and 1,000 angels attend him by night. Each angel has 6 wings. They go before the chariot of the sun. 100 angels keep the sun warm and light it up. He also saw the wonderful and strange creatures named phoenixes and chalkidri, who go with the sun, bringing heat and dew. They showed him also the 6 eastern gates of the fourth heaven, by which the sun goes forth, and the 6 gates in the west, where he sets, and also the gates by which the moon goes out, and those where she enters. In the middle of the fourth heaven he saw an armed host, serving the Lord with cymbals and organs in unceasing voices. In the fifth heaven he saw many hosts of angels called Grigori. Their appearance was like men, and their size was greater than the giants. Their countenances were withered, and their lips silent. On his questions of who they were, the angels leading him answered, "These are the Grigori, who with their prince Salamiel rejected the Holy Lord." Enoch then said to the Gregori, "Why wait, brothers, and not serve before the face of the Lord? Why anger your Lord to the end?" The Gregori listened to the rebuke, and when the trumpets resounded, they also began to sing with one voice. Their voices went before the Lord with sadness and tenderness. In the seventh heaven, he saw the 7 bands of angels who arrange and study the revolutions of the stars, the changes of the moon, and the revolution of the sun, superintending the good and evil conditions of the world. They arrange teachings, instructions, sweet speaking and singing, and all kinds of glorious praise. They hold in subjugation all living things. In the midst of them are 7 phoenixes, and 7 cherubim, and 6-winged creatures singing with one voice. When Enoch reached the 7th heaven, and saw all the fiery hosts of great archangels and principalities and powers, he was afraid and trembled with a great terror. Those leading him took hold of him and brought him into the midst of them, and said to him, "Be of good cheer, Enoch, be not afraid." And they showed him the Lord from afar, sitting on his lofty throne, while all the heavenly hosts stood on the 10 steps according to their rank, and made obeisance to the Lord. They proceeded to their places in joy, happiness, and boundless light, singing songs with low and gentle voices. They depart neither day nor night, singing with a soft voice before the face of the Lord, "Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. Heaven and earth are full of his glory." When he had seen all of these, the angels leading him said to him, "Enoch, up to this time we were ordered to accompany you." Then they departed, and he saw them no more. Enoch remained at the extremity of the 7th heaven in great terror, saying to himself, "Woe is me! What has become of me?" But then Gabriel came and said, "Be not afraid. Stand up. Come with me and stand before the face of the Lord forever." Enoch answered, "O my Lord, my spirit has departed from me with fear and trembling. Please call back the men who brought me to this place. On them I relied, and with them I would go before the face of the Lord." Gabriel hurried him away like a leaf carried by the wind, and set him before the face of the Lord. Enoch fell down and worshipped the Lord, who said to him, "Enoch, be not afraid. Rise up and stand before me forever." Michael lifted him up, and at the command of the Lord took off his earthly robe, anointed him with holy oil, and clothed him. When he gazed upon himself, he looked like one of God's glorious ones, and the fear and trembling departed. Then God called one of the archangels, who was wiser than the others, and said to him, "Bring the books from my storehouse. Give him a pen, and interpret the books to Enoch." The angel did as he was commanded, and he instructed Enoch 30 days and 30 nights. His lips never ceased speaking, while Enoch was writing down all the things about heaven and earth, angels and men, and all that is suitable to be instructed. He also wrote down all about the souls of men, those of them which are not born, and the places prepared for them forever. He copied all accurately, and he wrote 366 books. After he had received all the instructions from the archangel, God revealed to him great secrets, which even the angels do not know. He told him how, out of the lowest darkness, the visible and the invisible were created, how he formed heaven, light, water, and earth, and also the fall of Satan and the creation, the sin of Adam, and that the duration of the world will be 7,000 years, and that the 8th millennium will be a time of no computation, no end, neither years, months, weeks, nor days, nor hours. The Lord finished this revelation to Enoch with the words, "And now I give you Samuel and Raguel, who brought you to me. Go with them to the earth and tell your sons the things I have said to you, and what you have seen, from the lowest heaven up to my throne. Give them the works written by you, and they shall read them, and distribute the books to their children's children, and from generation to generation, and from nation to nation. And I will give you my messenger, Michael, to keep your writings and the writings of your fathers, Adam, Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, and Jared, your father, and they shall stand until the last age. For I have instructed my 2 angels, Ariuk and Mariuk, to guard them, that the account of what I shall do in your family may not be lost in the deluge to come. For on account of the wickedness and iniquity of men, I will bring a deluge on the earth, and destroy all. But I will leave a righteous man of your race with all his house, who shall act according to my will. From their seed will be raised up numerous generations, and on the extinction of that family, I will show them the books of your writings, and of your fathers, and the guardians of them on earth will show them to the men who are true and please me. And they shall tell them to the next generation, and they, having read them, shall be glorified at last more than before. Enoch was then sent to earth for 30 days to instruct his sons, but before he left heaven, God sent an angel to him whose appearance was like snow, and his hands were like ice. Enoch looked at him, and his face chilled. The angels who took him to heaven put him upon his bed, in the place where his son Methuselah was expecting him any day or night. Enoch assembled his sons and all his household, and instructed them faithfully of all he had seen, heard, and written down. And he gave his books to his sons to keep them and read them, admonishing them not to conceal the books, but to tell them to all desiring to know. When the 30 days had been completed, the Lord sent darkness upon the earth, and there was gloom, and it hid the men standing with Enoch. The angels then took Enoch and carried him to the highest heaven, where the Lord received him and set him before his face. The darkness departed from the earth, and there was light. The people saw, but did not understand how Enoch was taken, and they glorified God. Enoch was born on the 6th day of the month of Siwan, and he was taken to heaven in the same month, on the same day, and in the same hour as when he was born. Methuselah and all his brothers, the sons of Enoch, built an altar in the place called Achuzan, where Enoch was taken up to heaven. The elders and all the people came to the festivity and brought their gifts to the sons of Enoch, and made a great festivity, rejoicing and being merry for 3 days, praising God, who had given such a sign by means of Enoch, who had found favor with them. The translation of Enoch. The sinfulness of men was the reason Enoch was translated to heaven. Thus Enoch himself told Rabbi Ishmael, "When the generation of the deluge transgressed and spoke to God, saying, 'Depart from us, for we do not desire to know your ways,' Enoch was carried to heaven to serve there as a witness that God was not a cruel God in spite of the destruction decreed upon all living beings on earth. When Enoch, under the guidance of the archangel Amphiel, was carried from earth to heaven, the holy beings, the Ophanim, the Seraphim, the Cherubim, and the ministering spirits, they all, at a distance of 650 million parasangs, noticed the presence of a human being, and they exclaimed, 'Why the odor of one born of woman? How comes he into the highest heaven of the fire-flashing angels?' But God replied, 'O my servants and hosts, let this not be an offense to you. For all the children of men denied me and my mighty dominion, and they paid homage to the idols, so that I transferred the Shekinah from earth to heaven. But this man Enoch is the elect of men. He has more faith, justice, and righteousness than all the rest, and he is the only reward I have derived from the terrestrial world.' Before Enoch could be admitted to service near the divine throne, the gates of wisdom were opened to him, and the gates of understanding and of discernment, of life, peace, and the Shekinah, of strength and power of might, loveliness and grace, of humility and fear of sin. Equipped by God with extraordinary wisdom, sagacity, judgment, knowledge, learning, compassion, love, kindness, grace, humility, strength, power, might, splendor, beauty, shapeliness, and all the other excellent qualities beyond the endowment of any celestial beings, Enoch received besides many thousand blessings from God, and his height and breadth became equal to the height and breadth of the world, and 36 wings were attached to his body, to the right and to the left, each as large as the world, and 365,000 years were bestowed on him, each brilliant as the sun. A magnificent throne was erected for him, and a herald proclaimed throughout the heavens that Enoch was henceforth to be called Metatron. God said, I have appointed my servant Metatron as prince and chief over all the princes in my realm, with the exception only of the 8 august and exalted princes that bear my name. Whatever angel has a request to me shall appear before Metatron, and what he will command at my bidding you must observe and do. For the Prince of Wisdom and the Prince of Understanding are at his service, and they will reveal to him the sciences of the celestials and the terrestrials, the knowledge of the present order of the world, and the knowledge of the future order of the world. Furthermore, I have made him the guardian of the treasures of the palaces in the heaven Arabot, and of the treasures of life that are in the highest heaven. Out of the love he bore Enoch, God dressed him in a magnificent garment, to which every kind of luminary in existence was attached, and a crown gleaming with 49 jewels, the splendor of which pierced to all parts of the 7 heavens and to the 4 corners of the earth. In the presence of the heavenly family, he set his crown upon Enoch and called him the Little Lord. Even the princes of the heaven, when they see Metatron, tremble and prostrate themselves. His magnificence and majesty, the splendor and beauty radiating from him, overwhelm them, even the wicked Samael, even Gabriel the angel of fire, and all the rest. When Enoch was transformed into Metatron, his body was turned into celestial fire, his flesh became flame, his veins fire, his bones glimmering coals, the light of his eyes heavenly brightness, his eyeballs torches of fire, his hair ablaze, all his limbs and organs burning sparks, and his frame a consuming fire. On all sides he was surrounded by storm and whirlwind, hurricane and thunder. Next, Methuselah. End Part 7 of 95, TheLegendsOfTheJews.com.